Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It is a new week. It's a blank canvas. Time to tell new stories and paint new pictures. Are the Arsenal back? We've asked this 100 times. We have a very special guest in the house. Be gentle, everyone. We're popping his Highbury Squad cherry.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Hello, hello. It is a new week, and where I am is Thanksgiving week. So there's lots to be thankful for, and I'll be asking you guys as we go this week what you're thankful for. I'll also be asking our guest today, who's making his Highbury Squad debut, one of my favorite men who I met in Los Angeles on the tour this summer, and an amazing football brain that I think has elevated those boys over at the AFTV. James, welcome to Squad Central.
Hello. You're too kind, by the way. That's very kind words. But thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you out on tour. We've had some great Arsenal discussions. I'm glad we get to do it officially here on Highbury Squad as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for making time for us. And it's good to see you here. And Squaddies, hit the like button. A lot of you will be listening on replay. Be sure to get your comments in. I've got top 5 subjects for James. Remember to listen to our Chief Like Officer, Tammy Steels, at Ease Tammy. And hit that like button. We've got Lynn in the house. We've got PW in the house. We've got Carol in the house. A lot of you joining now. We've got Trev in the house. We've got Alison. Rich is here. Amira's here. Whole fam jam is getting together and slowly gathering here. James, by the way, Big Ben chiming in the background. It's just, you know, a little bit of slice of home for me, living in California. It chimed on Tom's show actually yesterday, which is a bit rude maybe when it's not my own show, but please forgive the old Big Ben chiming in the background.
Not at all. Not at all. Actually, I could barely hear it, so it's all good. But yeah, because of course, when did you move to LA?
You know, I actually have been living here for 23 years. But I've been traveling back and forth. I come back for the football, as you know, of course, and my family's in Cyprus. But I came out here because I was working for 20th Century Fox and kind of continued my film career in the mecca of where it all happens. I always felt like if you're going to do it, you've got to come and finish it off kind of in the place where it all happens. So, yeah, it's a great place to, as you know, it's not too shabby, is it, James?
Oh, we've had some great times. You know, I mean, I think firstly we're very sort of fortunate to have SoFi. That's the name. SoFi as our kind of like home from home. And I was sort of sat next to you in the press box for the last one, the Man United win, which was anything but a friendly. Even people in the press box were celebrating the goals. But we had good chats then. And what I really loved about that last LA trip was the extra fixture they put in with I say Southampton, it wasn't as Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, yeah.
Home game. Well, it wasn't a home game. With the Bournemouth game out there, because it meant an extra 2-3 nights there. And I don't think you can just pop to LA. I mean, I might be wrong. It doesn't feel like somewhere you can just pop to quite quickly. It's somewhere you really kind of want to, I don't know, get into it, even if it is for 5-6 days. And we did, and I loved it. And I'm not surprised that you never left and just stayed there, because it's brilliant. I'd quite like to live there at some point myself.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you get older, you know, when you're younger, when I came, I was young. You got all that ambition, your whole career ahead of you. And there's part of you, not that you want to get away with from your family, but you want to try and, you know, just be more independent and not as reliant on them. And as you get older, and I say this with the utmost respect, and I've said it to you, Tom, Harry, I'm old enough to be your mom. But as you get older, you kind of gravitate back to wanting to be closer to your family. And so I'm at there's a juxtaposition right now, you know, where you hit a certain age and you're like, do I want to move back to Europe? Do I
Yeah.
want to stay here? And also the other thing too, though, James, is I know we're going off on one, but I know you love this too. This talk
Good.
too, Squaddies, is I really enjoy covering sports here in the United States.
Yeah.
There's a different component, a different level, but the closeness you get to players here and the managers here, like last night, LA Galaxy won 6-2, a team that Beckham and Gerrard and Zlatan have played for, and
Yeah.
to have been close to those guys, standing right next to them in the dressing room, and then to talk to the manager after, and how he recognizes you and kind of what you've done for the team over the season. There's this real nice kind of vibe about all of that that I think I would really, really miss.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, but from like a distance, I mean, I'd love to be in the thick of it like you are. It was around the pandemic time, and I was thinking a lot about kind of, you know, what's next, job wise, is before AFTV and everything. And I always kind of thought, well, if I struggled to find work, I'd sort of, you know, in journalism or whatever, one of the things I wanted to do was try and find other work, save money, and actually go and travel the States to experience sport there. Because I think sport in the States it's just brilliant. I mean, from tailgating to the match day experience to the social coverage, everything. I mean,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, there's things about the way we do sport in England that's fantastic too. But I do think the States, from, you know, TV coverage to the match day experience, they know how to look after the fan. And look, I'm saying that from a distance, having been to a couple Arsenal games on pre-season tour. And did I have seen anything else? I might have been to. Have I been to American football game? I'm not sure. Anyway, my point is, like, they just do the whole experience really well. And I'd love to experience. I'd love to go and, you know, watch an American football game, watch some ice hockey, watch the basketball, and of course, you know, watch some MLS as well, because, you know, now you've got Messi in that league. But, you know, it's I don't know. Again, the whole experience is kind of very unique to how we do it here, and I think it's great.
I think too that here they embrace, and I think it may be changing a little bit. I think we saw that on our own tour this summer with AFTV. Here, I feel like they've embraced, like Super Kev's embraced the podcasting and YouTube word. He was an early adopter. He could see it all coming, right?
Yeah, he was.
And I think, and here you get players who do more of that stuff, new media. Teams kind of embrace the new media, like for LA Galaxy, Corner of the Galaxy, which is a show I go on a lot as a guest, and Josh Guessman has built that up and does a brilliant job. Like, they are one of his go-to guys. And it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have or views, they really want to try and build this inclusive media sphere, if you like, outside of the LA Times and the Philadelphia Inquirer and all these kind of, you know, big brow media outlets. And it's interesting. And I think that's where maybe it's changing in the Premier League. Maybe there are certain, but I don't think they've understood or trust to embrace it enough just yet. And that could be from, you know, like Flex being closer with Manchester United, or, you know, or Terry from Football Terry's, you know, whoever it is, you guys, I'm not sure they're there yet.
I totally agree. I mean, is it because it's on tour? So and I'm talking from the Arsenal perspective. I mean, for other sports, you know, I'll let you tell me. But I mean, from an Arsenal perspective, is it being on tour, the fact the results really in the thick things don't really matter? That maybe there's kind of an easing on sort of access and things like that. But I do think football clubs underestimate how far it goes with fans, you know, to feel like we're closer to the team and the players. I actually think under Arteta and in the last few years with their do, and, you know, the work that's been done by the hierarchy, I actually do think that the fans have felt somewhat closer to the club. But yeah, there's definitely like there's still a barrier, I think, in terms of quite how much trust there is when it comes to like fan media and I don't know, access to the club, which, to be fair, that's probably true of mainstream media as well. I mean, even then there's probably, you know, sometimes apprehension, is that a word?
Yeah, apprehension is a word. It's a good word. I usually get corrected with my grammar here a lot, so you're good to go.
Fair enough. I might need correcting too, but yeah, no, you raise a great point, and in the States, that definitely feels more relaxed.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely welcome here anytime, and hopefully I'll see you in the next couple months when I come for my annual visit to watch the Arsenal. Let's get stuck in and our top 5 talking points. There's a lot of things that have happened this season. It's already been kind of up and down, lots of arcs and threads and narratives that have been happening. And one of the things for me that happened over the weekend in that Forest game, you really truly saw that with the Arsenal X factors, this is a totally different team. And I wanted to talk to you about that because generally X factors are offensive players. You know, some would argue that Alisson, Van Dijk, Ederson, defenders for Manchester City, Rodri, defensive midfielder are the X factors for those teams. Generally for us over the years, it's been attacking players. Now we have Saliba and Gabriel, but truly the attacking creativity, I had initially titled this, this show Tiki Taka because I felt like I was watching a little bit of vintage Arsenal, maybe 23, 24 season, 22, 23 season Arsenal. Talk to me about X factors because they play a huge role. And I do feel like maybe Liverpool have more X factors. Mo Salah, Diaz. City have more X factors, albeit they're injured. Chelsea may even be creeping up on us on X factors. Tell me about our X factors and what your take is.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic to bring up because in the euphoria of the win, and I thought it was a great win and a great performance, and there was so much I was really happy about. And there's been already a lot of pessimism around this season, so I don't want to do anything to kind of fuel that, especially on the back of a really good win and performance and a potential for a good run. But I still think the X factor thing is a problem for us. I do. I look at the goal that Chelsea scored against us, Pedro Neto, and I just sort of thought, who does that for us? Now, some will say, well, Bukayo Saka did it against Forest. Okay, fair enough. But there we go. Sorry, my computer sometimes likes to do a thumbs up.
We like that.
Hit the like button, everyone. That's yes, Saka, perhaps. I still think Arteta gives him a lot of instruction and defensive responsibility that perhaps takes away from quite how much X factor he probably could show. But I think it's something we do lack in the team a little bit. I have to be honest. It's why I felt personally that the calls for a striker in the summer were slightly off. Not that we didn't need a striker, but the point is whether it was a striker, number 10, a left or right winger, we needed someone who could be a difference maker and a match winner on the days where we're not great. Against Newcastle, we were awful. But were they that great? In the end, Gordon with a wonderful cross, like a top cross, and Isak with a great header, their X factors came through. And on the pitch, I was kind of wondering, like, where's our X factor to come through to at least save us a point? And I think those players can save you moments. I mean, look at Liverpool yesterday; they were not good against Southampton, but a ball over the top, and Salah just with a lovely touch goal, 2-2. And then another great cross into the box that causes havoc. They win a penalty. Now, again, we have the Saka can do that, but I just feel that others have more of that than we do, if I'm honest.
It's really when it gets to those fine margins, right? We when you look at the improbable season, that was probably a mental. We weren't prepared for that last season. You look at, those fine margins, inches you have to make up the finishing. You talk about I'm going to get your take on transfers a little bit later on. But when you talk about those fine margins, the X factor really does come into play big time. Now, do you feel that maybe this season we've losing Odegaard and how he's the nucleus of everything and kind of the conductor of the orchestra? Are we still too reliant on Saka? Why do you think Mikel then didn't unleash Nwaneri? Because I do have Nwaneri in this image, and whether Odegaard or Saka are playing or not, whether it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes, the cup games we've seen, kind of what he can do. Did he make a mistake, James?
I just think you're right to ask the question. I've asked it so many times. Why did you not play Nwaneri more? A part of me feels like it's easy for me to sit here in my armchair from my bedroom and just say, you should have played the 17-year-old more. Duh. It was, but this is a 17-year-old who last season played like 10 minutes of senior football, and I don't think he's even playing England under 21, so I'm not mistaken. I think he's still in the England under 18, 17s, whatever it might be. And Arteta's spoken about building players brick by brick and not, don't throw them in at the deep end. Now, over the years, we've seen players that have been thrown at the deep end and they've not just swum, they've thrived. And it's been a part of their incredible story. But Nwaneri, Arteta seems to want to be more careful. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Basically, do I think if Nwaneri and his qualities and his profile had been in the team over Trossard, across that run that Odegaard was out, then yeah, I think we'd have picked up better results. But it's easy to say that now. How does a 17-year-old respond to going 1-0 down early at Newcastle and actually we're on the back foot and actually the game's become a bit physical and we're not in our stride? How does he respond from that in terms of his performance, in terms of his development, in terms of his mentality? There's so many things. Yeah, we're talking about a young person who still won't have completely mentally matured either. He looks a very mature player, don't get me wrong, but all of that will be a part of it. So I want to say he should have played him more. But I do have to recognize there's a lot of other factors and a lot of other reasons. Arteta will be putting out the best team he thinks he can put out to win the game. And he didn't feel that included Nwaneri, which is a shame. I slightly disagree, but I don't really know. What do you make of it? Do you think Nwaneri should have played more?
I think that maybe he should have definitely been subbed on earlier in games where Trossard kind of was disappointing. I'm not sure I would have started him because it's funny. The squaddies are probably sick of me hearing this, but we had Stevie Nicol, Liverpool legend, on a few weeks ago. Yeah. And he was saying, I would not set him up to fail like that. I would want him surrounded by the best.
Yeah.
And, the Bournemouth game is one where people were crying out for him, but there was no Saliba. You had already this kind of adversity building. You don't want him to try and have to come in and be the hero. Those things are really difficult to manage. We saw how Patino was persona non grata after that Forest Cup game, and that was just the FA Cup. We've seen how Kivior has been sidelined post Bayern Munich performance, and Arteta is ruthless in those moments. So I think the way he described it, we were talking about this with Tom as well, in that when he was talking about brick and cement and making sure it's dry and building brick by brick, I think he sees Nwaneri different. And I think he may see him like Foden, the Pep saw Foden, and how he wants to build him in and stuff like that, James.
Yeah, I think so. And you're right about Patino. I mean, remember all the hype around him. Yeah. And these things can really quickly fall away. Like so quickly. It can be that at every level you've been the best, and then that one step up and it's not, and you're not ready for it. It's not right for you. There's something you're missing. I imagine to make professional football, I mean, think how many people, millions of people in the world are probably very good footballers, are probably all very technically good, can kick a ball, can play at a certain level, maybe have a decent brain for it. So it's the finest of margins that separate you from the top. And Arteta's probably trying to look after those fine margins and develop him as best as possible. But I think your point about could he have brought him on sooner, I think it's a great point, because if you're going to bring him on for 10 minutes against Inter Milan, why not 20? At that point, he can't have an impact in 10 minutes. So I actually feel you've probably, if anything, harmed him bringing him on for just 10 minutes. So it feels like a semi-pointless run out. Whereas, I mean, and it wasn't, because he actually nearly scored and he looked good in it, but you wonder what we could have done with 20. So, yeah, in those situations, I never really, a bit like Odegaard coming on for 5 minutes against Inter Milan, you can't tell me that's a fitness reason, because what's the difference between 5 and 15? If you're fit to make a small appearance, then fine. If you're not, then you're not. So, yeah, I think that the sub point is a great point. That's probably where we really should have seen more of him.
Yeah. I mean, he almost got a little mini wonder goal before he actually scored the goal. So, all right, let's get on to point number 2 here with James. And yes, squaddies, before you correct me, I did leave the I off Calafiori's name. So don't give me shit.
Calafiori.
I find Calafiore, you could actually see Italians just saying Calafiore.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
like
they wouldn't bother
mozzarella.
changing it.
James, this one to me is quite fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
And, you never want to see a player injured. And sometimes injuries, I think in these positions, right back, left back, I mean, thank God for Saliba and Gabriel, touch wood, we've struggled. By the way, I thought Zinchenko looked really bright when he came on, and I don't like how he's been scapegoated.
True.
But Calafiori and Timber, and the reason I write Timber and Calafiori versus Ben is we've seen the brilliant relationship that Saka has with Ben on that right side. But the difference Calafiori makes on the left side, no matter who's playing left wing, seems to have a great impact. I still think that he's got some work to do defensively,
Yeah.
but that's just managing, kind of jumping into the league. Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen with Calafiori, with Timber. I think Timber's becoming very important for this team. What you see defensively that they may have deficiencies or advantages, and going forward as well. Talk me through this a little bit, especially now Benjamin's going to be out for a few months.
Well, I love this talking topic actually, because in the international break we did a whole piece on AFTV, and actually we never published it because Ben White got injured, so the
Oh,
kind of whole
wow.
video was ruined because of that. But essentially, I did my digging into the numbers. I mean, the numbers in terms of our attacking output and how exciting we are as a team when it's Timber and Calafiori are right up there. Now, Arteta's alluded to this. He's talked about preferring right backs, right footers at right back and left footers at left back, and it gives them better angles and it allows them to attack and support in different ways. And that's just natural. When Martinelli or Trossard's got the ball out on the left and they're running on their right foot inside, to have a left footer going the other way on the outside is a real positive, which is why I never loved Timber at left back, though defensively he is very good there. And Timber, on the other hand, at right back is someone who is... It's so funny. I'm shocked he used to be a centre-back, because he's not 6'3". I think he's 5'10". I mean, he's strong. He's good in the air. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when he played at centre back in pre-season, I thought he looked really good. But he doesn't really have the mould of a centre back, and his ability on the ball and his burst and his pace, it's all fullback. I mean, he just looks like a standard fullback, but because he's played centre back and he's so good defensively, he kind of feels like Arteta's perfect player in a lot of ways. His ability to play across that whole back four is a versatility Arteta will love. And you just see like the options he offers Saka as an underlapper, as an overlapper. He can get in the pockets, he can sit deep and build up. He can do lots of things. And Calafiori, I think, is proving a really exciting kind of flary fullback too. I mean, he is 6'2" and is slightly more in the frame of a centre-back, but he's got a lot of enthusiasm going forwards, and it's great. Now, when it comes to Ben White, I think Benjamin, shall I say?
He does like Benjamin.
He does like Benjamin. What he's done for the last 3 years shouldn't be forgotten. I think that debut against Ivan Toney almost immediately ruined his campaign, because I thought he was brilliant at centre back for the rest of that season, but he never really quite got the love and praise he deserved. Gabriel more so, but White didn't quite, even though I thought he was terrific. And then Saliba came back, and so White went to right back. And so again, immediately White was kind of seen as the guy who had to move for Saliba, but White was still brilliant. And then I thought last season, first half not great, but in the run-in, terrific. I don't think White will get you off your feet get you on your feet and off your seats the way Timber will, but he's so reliable and he's such a fighter and he's brilliant defensively and he can do a lot going forward. And I think he just understands every single aspect of the game that Arteta wants, and he can deliver on it from right back, centre back, wherever. So I think it's a great problem to have. I think if we're needing a goal, I probably want Timber and Calafiori on the pitch as my starting fullbacks. But I think if I'm starting a Champions League final, I'll probably want White with Timber at left back, because first and foremost, get your best defenders in defence. But this is a great problem. I grew up on Senderos and Johan Giroud and, you know, Schillaci and Mustafi and, you know, let's not say more because I don't want to be rude, but these players are they're really impressive.
Yeah, they are. And you're right that, you know, we've talked a lot on this show about we've been so desperate as Arsenal fans to have competition in each position. And when Benjamin White arrived and Tomiyasu and even Ramsdale at the time challenging in goal, and then season on season, we've kind of matched that. You know, maybe we haven't matched it as at the forward position and at the Saka position. And now you talk about the emergence of players from the academy that could potentially come in. But this idea that we, like, you're playing a Champions League final or an FA Cup final even, and you've got, if everyone's fit, you've got those choices. It's been a long time coming, really, for this club. Okay, so let's talk about another. By the way, I could go into. I already want you to come back just for a Q&A because, and by the way, you should release that episode because I think it will still be fascinating, even though,
thank you.
You know, White is injured. There's something about stature of players, right? And I think White grew into it.
Yeah.
Just before we get on to the next subject, I think White grew into it. I think Timber and Calafiori arrived with it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a difference. Kai Havertz grew into it, even though we knew he had the talent. He scored the winning goal in the Champions League, was great in Germany, was great for he didn't have it when he arrived. He grew into it. I actually think Jesus and Zinchenko arrived with it when they came from Manchester City. Two players who thought they should have been playing more there. They won everything there. They were the nucleus as to that Arsenal 2.0 and that evolution under Arteta. Nwaneri seems to just have it. Saka, Tom was saying last night that he thinks Nwaneri's got more of a wow factor than Saka did when Saka came into the team. But that part of the X factor, but also having it right away, Timber and Calafiori feel like they have that. Just real quick on that.
Yeah. I actually totally agree. I was blown away by Timber's kind of early performances before that really fortunate injury in his first Premier League game. And then he came back and I mean, what do they say about knee injuries? You know, you don't quite move the same. It can take a while it takes a year to recover from the injury. Sometimes it can take a year more to actually rediscover your best in that sense. But he just looked totally normal, moving like he did before. And the confidence was there. He doesn't shirk a challenge despite, you know, the problems he's had over the last year. Calafiori is so interesting because, I mean, I don't know if I've told you, but people who watch my content will be bored of me saying it. So my mum's Italian, so I was watching Italy closely at the years, as I always do, and Calafiori really impressed me then. But he was playing centre back. But the way he played at centre back, you just knew he could be a brilliant left back for Arsenal because he was just constantly driving into midfield. He was constantly just saying, "Oh, there's no pass on. Well, I'll attack the space." And there was something. So that was his first international tournament. And believe it or not, I think I read a piece by James Horncastle in The Athletic. This is before we were linked to Calafiori. I think that tournament was like his 4th, 5th, and 6th ever appearances for Italy.
Yeah.
You know, and he just, from day one at Italy, Arsenal, wherever it might be, and it's not a very usual thing for Italians to leave the Italian league, especially when the likes of Juventus are in for you, and go to, you know, to an Arsenal or whatever. And before that, he was abroad as well. I think Bologna signed him. I can't remember where from, but they signed him from abroad, having left Roma to go abroad. So this is someone who just, like a duck to water, he just takes on the challenge. And I think really backs himself and plays with a real enthusiasm and endeavor. And it's great to see. It's real personality on the ball. It's really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, personality on the ball. I think that's something that's lacking in football these days. And the reason why I included the picture of Martinelli and Saka here, and you could put Trossard in there, is how Timber and Calafiori, as James has talked about, affect us going forward. That Manchester City game in that first half was pure joy and magic to watch. It was just one of those moments where you think, wow, that team, that moment, wow, I just thought, wow, we're going to win the league
Yeah.
season. But, things don't work out that way, but we'll get to that. All right,
Absolutely.
number 3 for you on our talking points, another fascinating subject, because, James, just as you hear, we outgrow players, right? So there's a lot of Arsenal fans now that think we've outgrown Zinchenko, we've outgrown Jesus. There are even some that think we've outgrown Benjamin White. We outgrew Aaron Ramsdale. There's this continual, and you want evolution in a team. You want to keep striving. And like we talked about, those inches, Al Pacino, Any Given Sunday-esque in terms of what it takes to win. The midfield, I could hear fans, I was saying to Tom yesterday, I bet there's fans saying, oh, Marino versus Rice, we're so much better. And we're going to get to the forward line. But the midfield mix I find fascinating because a lot of us have been talking about, and I think in that first half it was proven, Jorginho, tempo of the game, controlling the ball, spreading passes. I thought he was brilliant. And I like that Mikel Arteta's like getting more into, I'll yank him off and I'll bring the other guy on who can help close, the starters versus finishers. Rice 6'8". I mean, who do we appreciate? Let's debate. But what do you see in the midfield, James, for this Arsenal? If everyone's fit, what do you see?
My gut tells me that the balance, you want the best of everything. It is Ødegaard with Rice and Marino. And I know that will upset some people, but...
Wait, say that Ødegaard with Rice and... Okay, all right, okay. So no Thomas.
No, I think Rice is our starting 6 long term. Rice, I liken it to Trent Alexander-Arnold's ability to cross the ball. I think Rice's ability to win possession in the middle of the park, his tackling, his pure defensive midfield ability is better than anyone in the world. I mean, I was blown away by some of his ability to dominate midfield last season from a defensive perspective. Now, Jorginho dominates by getting on the ball and passing it and controlling the tempo, and that's fantastic too. But controlling doesn't necessarily mean you always have the ball. I felt that we went on that great run last season, started around January, before the Man City game as well. I felt when we had Rice playing in there with Jorginho, and Rice was sometimes a 6, but not always. I felt that just our ability to, if we lost the ball in the final third, to then just win it back immediately, teams were just pinned in because we were more physical, we were stronger, we were faster, positionally we were better. And I think Rice really suits that. I do think that Rice is very good on the ball, but not quite as good as Partey and Jorginho. But he plays a little football, Rice, for Arsenal and England. So the fact that we had the chance to rotate him is a good thing, I think. I think it's brilliant that we can sometimes go, you know what, you can sit this one out. We don't need you to start this game. Long term, I think Rice is in our team no matter what. So basically, is he the 8 or is he the 6? I would have him in his best position, which I think is as the defensive midfielder, and I would get Marino and Ødegaard in there. I think Marino is going to get better and better. And actually, he showed some real tidiness in possession against Forest the other day. I thought there were moments where I thought that was really silky. It's not just solid and good in possession. There were moments where he showed some skill, some flair, some technical quality. And I think he's got that. And I think with confidence, that will come out more. So that's how I feel. But I've been calling for Jorginho to play more. I think he's really good, and we play really well when he plays. He's completely changed my mind from his Chelsea days, where I didn't really rate him massively. And Partey, we know we can be really smooth in possession when Partey's there, but are we perhaps a bit open in midfield? So that's me. What do you think?
It's funny because Thomas Partey, I know a lot of people say it's a contract year. He's playing for a contract, whether it's at Arsenal or not. I mean, it's probably more than likely it's not at Arsenal, but we don't know that, right? Scores a great goal, right? Has been one of our best players so far this season. Just when you're ready to kind of put him in the midfield dumpster, he's making you ask all the questions again. Yeah. It's funny because some of the guys in the chat are saying Rice slows down our play too much. Well, you could argue too that from the flip side, Jorginho's slow, but and he's a liability kind of on the counter, but he can control slow, fast, the tempo of a game with his feet and the ball, right? Marino, I think, Harry was talking as well about how he's not been impressed yet, but he's not going to be overly critical because he's coming into a new league and he needs the time. But in the last couple of games, you've seen him marinate. And you just said something really poignant, and I think is to have the options. Someone wrote in the chat, who'd have thought he'd have picked that midfield this weekend? To have the options when early in the season we're like, who's going to play midfield? How are we going to cope without Odegaard? Now you've got Jorginho who can come on and control a game for 20 minutes. Champions League, he's going to be massive, I think, Jorginho. You've got Marino, you've got Rice, who's so versatile. And of course, the magician Odegaard on the front side of those guys. Nwaneri can come off and has shown that he's got what it takes. So for me, all of a sudden, I think, even though I still want to buy a midfielder in January, it feels a lot better than it did.
I totally agree.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah. Well, I was arguing with everyone on AFTV about this. Like, people kind of have been saying that our squad's in terrible shape. And my rebuttal was always, look, is it good enough to win the league? It's looking like it's going to fall short. I was disappointed that Sterling was the attacking addition. I think losing Vieira and Smith Rowe and not adding someone of that ilk was a mistake. However, I also thought we've got a lot to learn about certain players. Marino, Nwaneri, Sterling, for example. And I didn't think the squad was anywhere near as bad as people were making out. And now what we've just seen is, Arteta essentially roll out a midfield that none of us expected. I think we expected Odegaard, Partey, Rice, but he didn't. He went for Jorginho, Marino instead. They look brilliant. I think they brought a technical quality, like a really high kind of intelligence on the ball. Really good in tight spaces, really kind of creative, really fluid makeup of a midfield that I think really complemented Trossard and Jesus' strengths as well. So I think we've got some rhythm from that team in the front 5-6 as well. But okay, let me put it another way. We're trying to catch Man City. Well, now it's Liverpool, but we're trying. City are the holders and have been for the last 4 years. So we're trying to catch them and get to their levels. They have no qualms about leaving £100 million Jack Grealish on the bench. They just don't mind doing it. If it's not the game for Jack Grealish or he's not in great form, whatever, Pep won't play him. And I just don't think there's a world in which, I didn't think there was a world in which Arteta would ever be happy not using his real marquee expensive players. But what I saw was £170 million worth of talent in Rice and Havertz, not only not start, but not even brought on. He just went, sit this one out. I don't need you for this. And you know what? That might be travel and the amount of games they've played, international duty, injury, could be lots of things. A little part of me thinks that Arteta just thought, I don't need you boys for this one. Jorginho is more creative and dictates the tempo better. Jesus is going to drop into those 10 spaces and link up the play and pull defenders apart and give us the kind of football we're going to need to break down this Forest side. And I'll use you guys when I next need you. And if that's the way Arteta's thought about it, I'll be very happy, because that for me is the kind of horses for courses approach I think we need to show more over the years, rather than just going, this is our best 11 and these two players are always subbed on. I think it's really nice to be able to show other teams that they don't know what they're going to get from us.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. What I said over the weekend was, this is one of my favorite in-game management moments I've seen from Mikel. And we've seen quite a few, but I don't know if he's learned from the adversity early on in the season, James, and also what his premier players maybe didn't give him in adversity.
Yeah.
And not to go down the Wenger route of your name's Ozil, your name's, Santi, your name's Giroud, whatever, you just get picked. Team picked itself. I think he was getting into that rut a little bit. He loves a starting 11. We all know that. But just assuming you're going to start, that can creep into a team. And I think he's needed to shake things up. And we know he's not afraid to be ruthless. And I actually think this was one of his best managerial moments, because the fact that, look, Forest have been great. We know they're really good defensively. They've signed some good players. Nuno's been on fire. Whether or not that, top 4 place was ever going to last all season, I think we all agree not. But still, they were one of the better teams. And a lot of fans were afraid of this match. And to be able to manage the game that way and then time your subs the way you did as well, I thought it was maybe Mikel having a come to Jesus moment in, these guys didn't deliver for me. They are exhausted. We have some players back fit. I need to get some players ramped up with the league, i.e. Marino. I thought it was really a 10 out of 10 managerial performance from him.
Totally agree. Completely and utterly agree. I think it both sent a message to the fans in that I know things haven't been great, and let me show you a reaction to that. I think it sent a message to the players in that don't assume that any of your places are secure, because they're not. And I think it also sent a message to the opposition, who probably were preparing for the physical battle that Kai Havertz was going to bring, and probably, you know, stepping, you know, a few yards deeper, expecting Martinelli, and then suddenly, oh, it's Trossard and Jesus. And actually, I've got a video coming out on the Gooniverse later today, although actually, big up my producer Max, he might have even put it out by now. But I looked at Trossard's touch map and compared it to Martinelli's in probably the last performance I thought we were that dominant. It was Leicester at home, the 4-2. Trossard's everywhere. Martinelli's on the touchline. I thought Martinelli was good that game. He actually got a goal, could have had a couple more. But it's just fascinating how it wasn't just a case of changing a personnel. There was clearly a change of instruction from Arteta. Go, be free, play your football, have fun with it, let instinct take over. And I think when Arsenal are at their worst is when they sink into the structure and the right ball goes into Partey, he plays it wide to Saka, he tries a 1-2, it's not on, inevitably puts on his left, attempts a cross, it's headed out, then we try win the next ball, can Zinchenko find someone? No, he can't. It's just a lot of, we go through the same repetitive patterns when we're in a bit of a rut. And this was, I think, him saying, go have fun. Remember to work hard off the ball. Remember your off the ball shape. Remember your duties to defending and protecting your defense. But on the ball, go enjoy yourselves. And I think Ødegaard also transmits that to the team because they feed off his movement and his passes and the things he does. So, yeah, I agree with you. Really big up Mikel Arteta, because we could be critical, and I feel silly when I am, but I thought he was great. I thought he got everything right on the weekend.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, weaving a little bit on what you were talking about, Trossard heat map, Martinelli on the touchline. Sometimes I want him to be a little bit more inventive. I think we all agree, looks down too much, doesn't play the ball fast enough sometimes. Some Arsenal fans think that he's reached his plateau. I don't believe that for a second. I still think he can be a threat. But there was one play that you mentioned. And by the way, Fergus from Guns and Yellow Ribbons, thank you for joining us for the time you've been able to. It's 7 o'clock. When we're done here, you guys can go over to Guns and Yellow Ribbons and listen to some top shelf guys talk about the club they love. Those guys are, some of them are in Lisbon, and please do listen. But James, let's talk about this one, because I'm a huge Kai advocate, and I have been since we signed him. And it's the same conversation this time last year, right? We haven't seen the best of Kai. I think Kai, actually, along with our defense, because of what Ødegaard does when he controls a game, was the player that missed Ødegaard the most.
Yeah.
And from January onwards this year, I thought he was one of our best players. I love the dark arts he brings, the shithousery, the physicality up front. What he does off the ball isn't really appreciated too much.
I agree.
A lot of people, though, reached out to me and said, I was having a convo with Potsy, and he's like, we're better without him. How can you say that if he was in the game? Like I said, if actually Kai was in that game this weekend, he would have scored 2 goals. And Potsy was like, where are you getting that from? And I said, because he's missed the service. There was much more creativity, fluidity. But to Potsy's side as well, was there more speed? You know, a lot of fans are anti-Jesus now with his surplus to requirements. You mentioned Raheem, and I was like, someone give Raheem a break. The poor guy hasn't even been given the opportunity to be criticised enough, comes up with an assist, and I think deserves a little bit more of a chance to come on for 10 or 15 minutes to help maybe change a game. There's always the Trossard, Martinelli argument. James, Kai Havertz, without him, what did you see? What do you believe is the magic potion up front for the Arsenal? Other than Gyökeres, don't bring him up yet.
Or Isak.
Isak.
Okay. So the first 4 months of Gabby Jesus, when we signed him before the knee injury, was some of the best football I've seen from an Arsenal number 9 since the Van Persie days. I know Aubameyang was a ruthless goal scorer, but I'm talking pure footballing ability. What we saw from Jesus in that first 4 months was unbelievable. Now, because of the knee injury, and since then, he's not really got back to that. But that, I don't believe, is completely gone. Look what we did against Bayern Munich when he came on, got us that equaliser, just driving in the heart of players. Played really well out on the right against Man City when we beat them 1-0 at the Emirates last season. So this is a player, Jesus, who I think still has a lot to offer, and it's been really frustrating watching the Arsenal fan base completely write him off. Now I fear that they're going to do the same with Kai Havertz. And by the way, I was never Kai Havertz's biggest fan. I never really wanted to sign him. Certainly didn't work as a midfielder for me. But this is a guy who led the line in the run-in, kept his cool. First Premier League title race for him as well. Scored some big goals, worked incredibly hard, did everything the manager needed him to do. Assist at Old Trafford, goal and assist at Brighton. Was it a goal as well? I think it was a goal at Brighton. Goal, couple goals against Chelsea, goal away at Tottenham, assist away at Tottenham. So he's putting up numbers, GA, in big games. And I also thought, and actually Kay Marlon's mentioned it, that Havertz works his socks off. He works his socks. And people always say, yeah, but that's the bare minimum. It's not. It's putting yourself, anyone can run around and look busy. Putting yourself in the walls, winning fouls, getting your body in front and keeping that ball alive and just fighting for every inch. I think Havertz does that. And I think Jesus does that too, may I say. But I think that goes underrated with Havertz. I think a big reason why we scored that goal at the Bridge to go 1-0 up was because of Havertz's work ethic and endeavour. I think Jesus is a little bit more on the ball quality, but I think Havertz is a more natural goal scorer and understands how to attack the box and where that ball's going to go. So essentially, I think it comes down to this for Mikel. Do you want the guy that's going to generate more football, more fluidity, more, I don't know, is going to excite you more on the ball, is going to potentially turn defenders inside out, is potentially going to open spaces that weren't there? If that's your guy, then it's Jesus. But don't back him to score more than 10 league goals this season, because I just don't think he's got it in him. But if you're looking for the guy who maybe the football isn't as pretty with this guy, but you know what? He'll do more with less in terms of chance creation, all that. I think it's probably Kai Havertz. And I do think he's a real battering ram. And I actually think we can play some brilliant football with him up top as well. I think it's really difficult. The reality is I have serious questions about both. And maybe that's why we should enter the striker market. But they can both do something. And I don't think just because one does well that the other should be completely written off. Havertz will play his part this season, no question. And Jesus will continue to in his way. I just hope we get more from them both than we've ultimately had this season so far.
Yeah, very fair. And I think this was one of Jesus's best games in a long time.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. He was so infectious when he first joined. What he did off the ball was amazing. I was, told by an absolute legend of this show, go watch a game and just focus on what he's doing when he doesn't have the ball. And when I went to the Emirates, I did that. And it's incredible. And that really is underappreciated, even though it's a very big part of the modern game. And that's why I don't think he's done. Now, maybe I'll have egg on my face, but so far I do, James, because at the beginning of the season, I said, Jesus is going to be the comeback player of the year. And there's still, I know, there's still a while to There's still a while to go. We still have domestic cups. We've got Champions League. We've got the Premier League. And it just seemed to me the goal in the cup game, this game against Forest, there was a little creeping back of maybe he's getting his confidence. Brazilian players are all about confidence. Attacking Brazilian players, if they don't have confidence, they stink up the joint. They need to believe, they believe in themselves, but when it's not happening, they just don't have that confidence. And I think that we've seen that with him, but maybe he's getting it back, just maybe.
I hope so. I mean, I think confidence or not, I just don't back Jesus in front of goal. I know he's put little.
Agree with you there. Agree.
When he first joined us, his output was decent. When he before he left City in that final couple months at the club, he actually was putting together some goal scoring, form scoring against the likes of Real Madrid and Liverpool in big games for them. So again, I asked people, okay, fine. So people think we might have outgrown Jesus or Zinchenko even. But just before we signed them, Guardiola was using them in really important moments in their season. When he really needed them, he did turn to them. So what, those players, they're not 33, 34 now. This isn't a Willian situation. So these players are completely gone? What was Zinchenko and Jesus can't do? And we saw on the weekend, albeit it was a sub appearance for Zinchenko, but we saw that they can contribute this season, that for sure. And then you start with that. You start by getting something that they're playing their part in the squad and they're having a say in the season. And then maybe something clicks and you just go beyond that. I've written off many players. I wrote off Thomas Rosicky once. And then he just really discovered his form. And look, I know I'm not talking about title-winning Arsenals. I appreciate that. But, I thought this guy's just not it. What's going on? And he rediscovered that form and he looked terrific. Sometimes players, you just need to hang in there a little bit. And look, we're not in the middle of a transfer window. It's not the summer. We've got Zinchenko and Jesus. I don't think £30 million bids are coming in for either of them. So get what you can out of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. Good to see you back, Matty K. Where the heck have you been? Good to see you. One of our OGs. Right, number 5. Here we go. Right, James. I know I've thrown a bit at you this evening, keeping you on your toes here.
That's good.
Your January, I think, is a moment maybe to make up some stuff, right? I'm not saying we can make up the points on Liverpool, but I truly believe Liverpool will come into their own adversity. Southampton will be shooting themselves in the foot today. Better. So I think that Newcastle always going to be tough for Liverpool. I think Manchester United is always going to be tough for Liverpool. And I think beware the wounded animal next week with Manchester City. Don't write those mofos off. But please, I actually still think they can win the league.
Totally.
And who thought that Manchester City would lose 5 games in a row? So don't hand the title to Liverpool, in November. So with that said, January, what do we do, James? What do you think is realistic? What do we also have to do? Maresca, credit to him. I mean, Chelsea are right there next to us. Spurs are only 3 points behind us, but we kind of know how that movie ends. But still, there's things that we need to do if we're serious about winning the league. Talk me through what you would love to see your 11 looking like after the January transfer window.
Well, okay. This is interesting because what do I realistically think we can do in January? The fact they signed Sterling tells me that they're not going to sign a forward in January unless it's the right guy. So if they want Isak, but they'll get him in the summer, then they'll wait till the summer. So I don't think we're going to have anything exceptional on that front. We could add a midfielder. But like who? Like a Morgan Gibbs-White? I don't. Look, this is an unpopular opinion. A lot of people aren't going to like this, but I said on a live recently on the Gooniverse that I actually don't think we are going to sign anyone in January. Now, I think maybe there was a pressure to start looking and, sort of scout the market while we were getting those bad results and Ødegaard was out. But I actually don't think we will. I actually think it was more likely if we get to January and Ødegaard's injured, I actually think it's more likely that Nwaneri then does get those opportunities because Arteta might feel that he's a bit more integrated and ready then. So, yeah, sorry for the really boring answer. In terms of my 11, though, I do think long term, I mean, Raya...
Let's say you have control. You have control and you get one X Factor player. What does your 11 look like?
One X Factor player. Okay. All right. It's this. I would go Raya in goal. I think Timber, especially because White's now out for 3 months. They're going to nurse the injury. They won't rush him back. I think Timber's our starting right back for the campaign. So Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori. My midfield is Ødegaard, Rice, and Marino. As I mentioned earlier, I think that's the best balance. And then Saka on the right. Havertz and Jesus can fight out up top. Actually, Trossard can fight out up top. I think Trossard's a great false 9. But I think Havertz will claim that shirt back. And on the left, and I love Martinelli, and I'm sorry, Martinelli, but going against what I predict will happen, if I had full control, I could get an X-Factor player who actually might well be looking to leave. And I really believe this guy's top and can make a difference. I go get Mohamed Kudus from West Ham. I think he's mustard. I think he's brilliant. I really, really like him. Left, right, up front, false nine, midfield, whatever you need him to do. He can run through a team. He can put it in the top corner from distance. He can bicycle kick it at the Etihad, and he can also just sniff where the ball's going to go in the penalty area and get on the end of it. I've been banging this drum since June. Actually, Kudus is the guy I want, and I actually think he could be gettable in January if Arsenal really wanted to. But yeah, that's my guy.
I think he's gettable too. He seems like one of those that's gettable.
Yeah.
I don't know about Rafael Leao's contract, but I someone mentioned Rafael Leo, and he's kind of polarizing at times. But to me, a player like him in January might be tempted if you know Milan have been up and down this season. But I think in January, I say this without prejudice. I think it's key to sign Premier League experienced players who kind of know what it means and without kind of an induction program, James.
Yeah. Well, that's been Arteta's thing. He went and got Jorginho, Rice, White, Zinchenko, Gabi Jesus, Trossard, all these players had, hit the ground running, know exactly about the league. Is it a must? I mean, it's probably a benefit. I mean, like some people think like, oh, Premier League passion merchants, why does it matter? But for me, look, I think it's kind of obvious. It's like if I've played in this league before, I'm going to feel more comfortable from the off. I would think that's just natural. It's like anything, any job you do. If you've, I don't know, if you move to a different firm, but you've done that job before, you're going to feel more comfortable. But, if you move to a completely different job in a completely different industry, no matter how talented you are, that might be a struggle for a second, even if it is a pretty similar role. I don't know. Probably a terrible analogy, but you get my point.
No. I mean, if you look for jobs, they say we and you're applying for a job at ESPN, we prefer people with sports industry entertainment experience. It's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
No matter.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have James back, you guys, to talk more about other players and stuff like that. But we're getting like Bournemouth players now. We're getting Delap. We're getting Dibbling. We're getting a lot of suggestions. Yeah, he looks fun.
Semenyo, good players, very good.
Yeah,
players.
Semenyo's a good player. Oh, he could have. Was it Semenyo who hit the bar at the very death for Bournemouth at the weekend? I don't remember. But all right, we're going to get James out on some fun stuff. Okay, so if you're listening, and by the way, 200 plus of you in live chat, hit the like button, please. This has been a great conversation with James. Talking points. Tell us if you're listening on replay in the YouTube comments. Number one, the Arsenal X factors. Who are they for you? Number two, Timber Calafior versus Ben, and what they provide defensively and, of course, for the flank players. Number three, the midfield mix. How does that look like to you when everybody's fit? Number four, are we better up front, sans Kai Havertz? Let us know what you think about that. And post 11 January, your starting 11 post January, what does that look like? Right, James, because you haven't been on the show before, we need to get a few things with you. This is quick fire, so quick answers from you. Let's see, our quick fire round. Let me see, what did I have? It's that basic stuff, but we need to know. All right, so your favorite ever Arsenal player?
Sorry, everyone. Cesc Fabregas.
No, don't apologise.
I know, but a lot of people hate him. But I grew up, his style of play, I based it off that. I was a scrawny little, well, still am actually. and I was just very like, in a world of Gerrard and Lampard running up and down the pitch, I was very inspired by Fabregas. Yeah, loved him. First name I had on a shirt as well, actually.
He was a joy to watch. And I follow Cuomo. I actually really like Fabregas's wife and the philanthropic stuff that she does. If anyone follows her, she's really seems like a really good woman. And I love watching the story at Cuomo. It is so fun to watch stories like that, especially with a player like him. And look, he won everything at Chelsea, but I think he still has regrets about leaving Arsenal because in his DNA, he feels like an Arsenal man. Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. Your favorite current player?
Oh, Saka. Yeah, come on, Haaland.
It's
The
hard.
story.
Hard. Yeah.
He's been
Hard
there
one.
from, yeah. Brilliant.
Okay. Your favorite away stadium, and at the same time, give us the one that you cannot stand going to.
I mean, I've never been, but as and I'm not afraid to admit this, but it sounds like Arsenal fans go through quite a lot that trip to Tottenham away. I mean, it's it's like it's intense, basically. So would I ever do that trip? I'm not sure. I'm not afraid to admit it. I mean, yeah, but I've never been. I mean, it's a glorious stadium. I will say that. My favorite stadium. Oh, that's difficult. Sorry for the really boring answer, but I mean, I do think I haven't watched a game there, but I've been there. Anfield's pretty special. And I'd love to go. I'd love to experience that. Least favorite. Why not Stamford Bridge? Why not? Just for the sake.
Mine's Crystal Palace. I used to hate going there. It's such, and especially if you live on the other side of the river, and just horrible vision of the game.
Oh, really?
But yeah.
Craven Cottage had that problem actually as well. I have been to Craven Cottage quite a few times because it's quite local. But I do like the ground, the cottage by the river. It's all quite.
It's great. Yeah, all of that's pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Anfield, they did when I was going there. Their pies and their food was awful, but I'm sure that's changed.
Oh, sorry. Yanto 2013. No, sorry. No. No. TJR 2109 has mentioned the San Siro. Were you asking for Premier League grounds or any grounds I've been to?
Well, I was Premier League, but do any, yeah. I
mean, I was at the San Siro for the game.
Did you love it?
Unbelievable. The most incredible atmosphere I've ever experienced. And I've been to that stadium a few times because my cousins are Inter fans, but this time I went as an away fan. But it was sensational. So that's probably my favorite stadium experience, despite the game not going well.
And you know what? The San Siro feels romantic. It's just like a magical place. And I was a huge fan of those old Milan teams. They're just a joy to watch. I grew up with a generation with Football Italia on Channel 4. And course, so, it was all very cool. Okay, a couple more for you. A rival player you'd love at our club?
Ooh, having to quickly think about this one. Oh my word.
Mine's Mo Salah.
Yeah, Salah was up there, but then I thought we got Saka, Rodri, Van Dijk, but I do like our centre backs and our sixes. Weirdly, I mean, they've got great players. I'm not saying theirs aren't better, but it's actually where a lot of our strengths are. Who's like a great left winger?
Son in his heyday, maybe?
At his best, Son was world class, I have to be honest. Cole Palmer's a great shout because I think Palmer and Ødegaard could play in midfield together. So yeah, Palmer's a great shout, but I'm really looking at that left wing. I can't quite think of someone. Yeah, maybe Salah, because I think Saka's so good you could put him on the left and he'd be brilliant. But people don't like this suggestion of moving Saka.
I just think Mo Salah is probably one of the most underappreciated, underrated, greatest ever players in the Premier League. I mean, the dude is a machine.
Totally.
So yeah.
He's a great.
All right.
He gets into my Premier League all-time 11, I have to say. Salah does.
Yeah, totally. We got a Cody Gakpo for you, by the way. Mitoma.
Good player.
I like he. But does he take you to that next level? That's the thing. Maybe not. Sure. All right. 2 more for you here. We've got your AFTV colleague who annoys you the most. Do not be fearful of answering this question. Lead judges just answered it within 2 seconds, and everyone had a really good guess as to who it was going to be.
He said Julian, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. I mean, I love Julian to bits, by the way. I don't think people realize how funny Julian is. He's a very, very funny character, and I have a great time with him. He's undoubtedly annoying, but I think that's part of what makes him so funny. Cecil, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I laugh at him quite a lot, but he takes it so well, like, in a brilliant way, and vice versa. But he's terrific. I can't say any of them really annoy me. I'm being deadly honest, but yeah, I'll
Judges doesn't ever annoy you. Judges doesn't?
Sorry?
No? Judges, Lee Judges?
Oh, yeah, but do you know what? You're right. He's a pain in the. You're right. Actually, he's up there. He's
Our
up
little
there.
diva.
He likes to watch 8 a.m. recording Forever Arsenal, and he's got himself 3 points in the prediction league table, and he likes to wind us up. So yeah, he's up there. I have to say. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. Well, we adore him here, and he's one of the epic ones. And Julian and Lee together on the US tour. I had them both because I got them the seats like right at the front, and the two of them were they're such wind up merchants. All right, let's get you something out on that allows people to get to know you a little bit better. Your favorite ever film or TV series, anything you're watching now, anything from the past. What does float James's entertainment boat?
Oh, I'm a complete nerd. So like my favorite films are like Return of the King, like the Lord of the Rings movies. I love the Marvel films as well, all that. My favorite TV series is probably Breaking Bad. I've rewatched it so many times. And then this is a slightly older one. I really liked 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. That was great. It was like the first thing I watched as like a series where I was just like devoted to like episode after episode. So I
worked on that show, James.
What's that?
I worked on that show. I was the publicist for international for that show. That was my one of the franchises I looked after when I was at Fox.
Well, we need to have serious conversations because I was also being very kind of, I was dumbing it down there thinking, oh, what if people don't? I loved it. I was obsessed. I mean, at school, when I was like 13, I think my dad just came back and said, right, I've been recommended 24 to watch. As a family, we all gathered, and we don't really often do that. But we watched the first episode, and it would be that thing. You watch it 4 or 5 episodes a night because you were hooked. It'd go on till 12:30, and then you're like, right, okay, time for bed. It's a Tuesday night. But we were hooked every night watching it. Yeah, I loved it. That and Breaking Bad is just, for me, it's just genius. So yeah, those are probably. I'm sure I've missed something. I love all the Harry Potter. All that. Yeah.
I love that you chose 24 because it was actually a real groundbreaking show as well for its time. It was unafraid and unapologetic, and I think Game of Thrones took a little bit of 24 in that we didn't care who the character was. We were just going to kill people off if it made sense for the storyline and stuff. And Kiefer Sutherland has to be one of the coolest, nicest people in entertainment. And I looked after a lot of people. But, we're talking about PR schedule. We're sitting there in his trailer eating chicken wings while he's dressed as Jack Bauer. I mean, it's just, when people bring up stuff like this, it takes me back to some moments. The producers were cool. They used to have this cigar. I can't say this cigar room. Smoking jacket you go into where you talk about like press and it was really a joy. It was brilliant.
That's so great to hear because they say don't meet your heroes, and you never really know what people are like in Hollywood or whatever. I loved Kiefer Sutherland. He was just such a. I mean, Jack Bauer was just one of the coolest characters ever. Tony, what was his surname? Tony.
On.
Tony on 24. Tony. Oh, this is really going to bother me. He had like an Italian sounding name. Jack Bauer.
There was Dennis Haysbert. There was Jack Bauer. There was Tony.
Tony Almeida.
Tony Almeida. My God, my memory's going. Yeah. And there was Alicia Cuthbert, who played his daughter, who everyone thought was super hot at the time. But Tony Almeida, his character really evolved. Yeah. I love Kim. She is amazing. Yeah, really amazing. But very cool.
It was top.
Very cool.
By the way, on that. That's fantastic. And thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Well, listen, this has been a lot of fun. Do you promise to come back before the season is over so we can do a bit of a catch up?
Absolutely. No, I'd love to. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for inviting me and having me on. And I really enjoyed all the discussion points. I think that Timber Calafiori thing, it's gone under the radar a little bit. That, okay, Ben, I hope you recover and take the time you need, and that he's a super important player. But those are two that I think can really take Arsenal in another direction. That is very exciting, I think, for our attacking football. And the Havertz Jesus debate, it's amazing how one performance can sort of swing narratives quite quickly. So definitely, enjoy touching on that. But look, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I want to invite you on the Gooniverse podcast soon as well. Actually,
would love to do that.
Would love to Arsenal fans, and I'd love to get you on.
Would love to do that as well. And just give me 30 seconds to just do a couple of housekeeping bits. Football prizes at football_prizes. There's a Patrick Vieira up for grabs. The competition ends on Tuesday, the 3rd of December. Start building your collection. Go do it, people. Grab it now. The guys at Football Prizes are waiting for you. It's the most inexpensive way to start building a memorabilia collection. And lots of our listeners have been very lucky, and you can get lucky too. Go to footballprizes.co.uk and nab that. And then, of course, Zenith coins. The Invincibles coin. Oh, by the way, do you know what? Screw that picture. Look at this, James. I got this in the mail. I got mine.
Oh no!
From our good friends at Zenith. It feels like I got an MBE. Do you know what I mean? And then
feels like the club have honoured you.
Yeah, I'm honoured by Arsenal. I got my award right here, the Invincibles collection with its certificate of authenticity, and you've got all the coins in here. It really is. It closes like kind of like Pretty Woman.
Cool. That's really
It's very, very cool. Very cool. Use Squad 15 for 15% off. Go get your Invincibles coin and your North Bank coin today. James, thank you for letting me do that. And let everyone know what you're doing, what you're up to, what's coming up for you, so they can find you.
Today's quite an exciting day because on the Gooniverse we've just had a little bit of a relaunch. We took 2 weeks this international break. I just decided, right, it's 2 weeks before the football madness really begins, and I've painted a room. I'm not savvy with painting, but I painted. We've got this whole room ready. We built a new set. We've got all sorts of things ready. And Max, who was in the comments, actually is amazing. The production he does for the Gooniverse. He has done a lot of work behind the scenes just to try and elevate things on the channel. So that all started today, which is really exciting. And of course, you'll still see me on AFTV. I'll be on the watch along tomorrow for the game against Sporting. So yeah, big thank you for letting me tell you all about that and for having me on the channel.
Brilliant. Thank you again. And you're getting a lot of love from the chat, by the way. They love how you talk football. They love your demeanor. You're getting a lot of sugar from the Highbury Squad squaddies. So make sure if you're not following James, do so. And don't forget the highburysquad@gmail.com. If you want to get your hands on this Invincibles coin collection, all you need to do is send me no more than 500 words, because I'm not going to read it Rachel Green style, 50 pages front and back. Why you feel you deserve it. What is your best story from the Invincibles season? Happy, sad, rad, glad, you name it. Just send it to the highburysquad@gmail.com and you could be winning one of these. And Judges is going to help us judge that competition. So get it into us as soon as you possibly can. James, thank you so much. The rule is at the end of the show, we give 30 seconds to our guests to close and give them a message, whether it's as an Arsenal fan, a life thing. It's Thanksgiving this week in America. Tell us real quick what you're thankful for, and then you have the floor to close the show.
Okay. Thankful for having a platform to chat about a club I love, and that everyone tuning in is interested and has been so lovely in the comments. So thank you for that, and thank you for the invite here. I guess my final sort of message would be that, is believe in this team. I'd say believe in this team. I think it's been a long time since we've had a squad and a team that we can genuinely know will fight for this team. Whether the quality is there, whether they're quite good enough. They want to be, and they'll do their best to be. But the thing I'd say is show them your support, because they're fighters. And actually, I've questioned Arsenal teams over many years. Do they fight? Do they care like we do? I actually think a lot of this team really genuinely do. So stick with them, because I'm still very confident we're going to have a very good season.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Look out for us on the community page in X. And we've joined Blue Sky, but I can't. I'm too old to manage all this social media shit. Look out for the next show on our community page. And don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. You know the rules here, squaddies. At ease. Good night. Thank you, James.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.